Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. It's time for some more Minuteman Mag Prepper type talk. You folks need to be increasing your levels of preparedness. I need to be doing it. We all need to be doing it. And we need to be holding each other accountable, especially if you're already in small groups. If you have a mag, a tribe, a crew, team, whatever you call it. If not, if it's just your family, maybe it's just you and your spouse, you and your wife, you and your husband. We need to be encouraging each other and pushing each other to be a little bit more prepared. Well, actually a lot more prepared, because the handwriting's kind of on the wall at this point, folks. If you just look at the economy, and you look at how the housing market, and you look at the loans, if you look at food availability starting to dry up in certain areas when it comes to rice and wheat, or at least becoming more expensive. When you look at the job market, when you look at how many people are on disability just in the last couple of years, the amount of applicants towards disability has skyrocketed. And that's just that stuff. When you look at the fact that the average person, the amount of taxes that the average person pays in the United States, that it would take them somewhere around 300 and some thousand years of working just to pay the amount of money in taxes that the United States spends in one day. That's insane. That's absolutely absurd. When you start to really wrap your head around how deeply we've dug this hole that we're in. And we're not even talking about World War III stuff. I mean, that's also going on too. And then, of course, pandemics. And then, which really for me is probably the biggest sign, is just the degradation of our society. The complete destruction of basic family, godly, biblical morals and principles. Whether you believe in the good book or not, there's just certain things that's just always been true, and that our society and virtually every other society before us has agreed to, and now we're just throwing that out the window. Doesn't mean anything. It's absolutely disgusting, the stuff that's going on. You all know that. We don't have to go into it. The point that I'm making is it's time we step up our game, folks. It's time we push ourselves. You need to be establishing monthly goals. I've talked about this just recently, but you need to be establishing monthly goals on physical fitness. You need to be increasing your level of physical fitness. Why do you need to do that? Because I can promise you, when the doo-doo hits the fan, you will absolutely have to be more physically fit. You will have to be doing more things physically. So you need to work on that right now. You need to evaluate where your preps are. Do you have enough ammunition? Probably not. Do you have enough food put away? Probably not. Do you have water purification set up? Do you have enough garden seeds, at least for a year's worth of gardening? Do you have the tools that you need, even just the basic tools to garden? Do you have some of the basic equipment to preserve the food that you're either growing or raising or hunting or fishing? Do you have some of those basic things? Do you have just basic medical supply? Do you have even more advanced medical supply? Do you have a stockpile of things like bandages and gauze and other things that are needed if there was some type of a major injury? Have you taken any kind of training? Do you know anyone that knows what they're doing when it comes to medical? Do you have books and adequate books for all of these things and more? This is what I'm talking about. We need to be pushing ourselves. We need to be stepping up our game. Comms, communications. Something like a simple radio like this. Are you going to talk all over the country in something like this? Of course not. You're going to communicate with other people probably within about a mile from you, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. But it's a $40 radio, if that. And it does well. Is it a real high-end radio? No, of course not. But it does the job. Do you have radio communications to communicate longer distances? Mobile radios, whether they're in your vehicle or in your home or both. Do you have a system of how you're going to communicate with other people in your group? Are you just going to go on there and say, hey, Bob, why don't you come on over to the house? Oh, where is it? Well, you go down so-and-so road. You're going to broadcast that all over the radio? Or do you have some system set up to communicate on the radio so that not everyone knows what you're saying? Now, I know there's some ham radio guy's head just exploded and say it's illegal to use encoded, encrypted messages on the radio. Well, that depends on your definition of encoded, encrypted messages. But if I have a certain designation for my location that only myself and others in my group know, and that's how we communicate with each other, then I could get around that definition. And in fact, you know, if everything's kind of falling apart, I don't think most people are really going to be worried too much about that. So you need to be doing that. You need to have a designation set up. You need to establish which way you're going to be traveling between your group. You know, which back roads are you going to be taking? You live out like this maybe, and maybe you've got 5 or 6 families in your group. Do you know which roads that you're going to choose to take? That way those roads are established. These are primary routes, these are secondary routes, and everyone in the group knows them. That way, if someone doesn't come, you know, show up at the appointed time that you know that they're supposed to be there, you can go looking for them and you know where they're going to be. Do you have these things established? Have you looked at the maps in your area? Have you figured out the terrain? Have you figured out areas that could pose a security risk for you where you're at? Or things that could be very beneficial to you if you had to evacuate? Have you thought about these kind of things? Have you worked with your group, your mag, your team, to figure this stuff out? This is the kind of stuff that we need to be working on, and we need to be pushing it. You need to be figuring out what all skills that you can learn. You know, have you ever canned vegetables before? You know, pressure canned. Maybe you haven't, but maybe you need to learn. And how well can you develop that skill? Maybe it's making clothing. Maybe it's making blankets and hats and gloves or socks. How well can you do that? If it's a little bit, maybe you should be working on increasing that skill, because that's a valuable skill to have, and most likely will be in the near future. So are you working on developing the skills that you already have? Are you work on trying to learn new skills that you will need? Are you constantly learning? Are you constantly sharing with others in your group what you've learned? Are you encouraging each other? As a group, are you doing things to simply just build the camaraderie in your group and the closeness and the trust? Are you doing those things? Well, if not, you should be. If you're in a group, whatever kind of group it is, if you're in one, you need to be working towards these things in others. If you're just sitting around talking, drinking coffee, and complaining about how Joe Biden and whoever else is ruining the world, then there's not really much of a point of you guys existing. I know that's harsh to say, but it's true. You need to be working towards common goals and set goals as a group and as an individual. And if you do it on, say, a 30-day basis, because in 30 days, if you do something for 30 days, you've usually established a habit. So establish a goal to reach within 30 days. And when you meet again as a group, reevaluate those goals and say, hey, we didn't quite do this. I didn't quite do this, but I did this. Oh, well, you didn't accomplish that. Then maybe we can work together. Maybe I can help you out. And that's how groups increase their survivability. That's how groups also increase the level of trust amongst each other. We need to be doing this, because when we look at how bad things are getting and the direction that they're headed, I'd say it's a pretty good estimate that we're probably not too far away from things just dramatically increasing. Are we talking about the end of the world level of SHTF? Maybe, maybe not. But are things going to get worse from where they are now? Well, that's pretty much guaranteed, because if you look at the history of things, all things, you'll see that's usually the case. And especially considering where we're at now and all the things that's going on. Don't listen to these naysayers. Oh, we've been hearing about this for years. Yeah, and for years it's been getting worse. For years, food prices have been going up. For years now, the availability of food has gotten worse and worse. I mean, now it's just become the norm to go to a grocery store and see empty shelves throughout the store, or to see not completely full shelves. I mean, it used to be that if I wanted to go to the store and buy 7, 8, 10 cases of green beans, I could do so, because just about any store would have at least that much. And now sometimes you're lucky to see a case or two on the shelf. This is all being done for a purpose and a reason, folks. Prices of things are skyrocketing. The availability of things are getting worse. the disgruntledness and the division amongst Americans is probably at an all-time high. And there's a whole lot more that we need to be preparing for. We know that. You know that. Quit denying it. Quit, turning a blind eye and convincing yourself that it's okay, that this is, we're normalizing now. We're kind of leveling off. We're not. You need to be getting yourselves, your family, and your community in order, preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.